One. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Welsh Republic podcast, episode 71 today. And I am here with my guest, Nad from Realityczarspod Podcast. How are you doing, Nat?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good.
What have you been up to today? Anything much?
Working my ass off. But been having fun. I'm working on some show notes. I'm about to put out an episode that I did with a gentleman named Vince Field. It's about, God damn it, what's it called? Astral projection. It's pretty fucking interesting.
Is he going to teach you how to do that type of stuff or something like that?
Well, we recorded this episode probably, fuck man, I'm so behind. I have so many in the can that I just haven't uploaded yet. We probably did this one at least a month ago. But yeah, kind of, and he wrote a book about it, so I probably should not be an asshole and buy his book and read it. But it was a really fascinating interview, dude. Are you familiar with astral projection?
I have heard of it. Basically, you pretty much just calm your mind down and stuff, and you can pretty much, use your mind or something like a soul to go into other places and all that.
You leave your body, basically.
Yeah. What did he tell you about astral protection? What science did he give behind it?
I don't know. He's been doing it since he was 14. He found some books and he just started reading it. And it's almost it's fascinating because it's almost like a dreamlike state. And you are going to different levels of consciousness. It's different levels of reality that are above us. And I guess this is the baseline. So you can think of Earth as the bottom. This is the corporeal realm. And so I guess he was saying that we visit them all the time and we just don't know it. When we are having dreams and things like that, a lot of times we're visiting these astral realms, and the lowest levels have these he says they're not very smart and they're just sort of mean and they're just kind of these dumb, evil kind of creatures. And then you can go higher and higher, and he met some that were grays, kind of like the typical gray alien that you think of, but they were actually kind of orange, and they're kind of psychotic and evil. But there's a lot of the higher you go in these realms, once you train yourself, he's met some awesome beings that gave him tons of knowledge and wisdom, and anyways, that's just fascinating. I don't know.
Whether you believe in that or not, I mean, it sounds like he was having a pretty good trip.
Yeah. Well, that was another thing, because I asked him, I was like, well, what do you think of when you're taking hallucinogenics, psychedelics? Do you think that you're also touching those realms? And he says yes. He says he likes to do it the natural way, through his mind, but he thinks that you're also visiting those things when you take ayahuasca or a heavy doses of shrooms or anything like that. Welsh, have you ever done any psychedelics?
No, they're not my thing. Not interested in them. What about you? Have you done them before?
Goo gobs. Tons. Yeah. They're pretty great, man. I dig them, but maybe not for everyone.
What do you think is the biggest misconceptions that the mainstream media and the fact that what is the one thing that governments around the world have been hiding about psychedelics that they don't want to, the public to know about?
I don't think they want you to do them, because I don't think that they want you to know. First of all, they want you to think that we are insignificant. They want you to think that this life is short and you just have to fucking do what you're told. And they don't want you asking any serious questions.
Exactly. I know, right? I know that's why the education system is pretty much designed to make us dumb. And especially when you look at how we're trying to become beings, how basically spiritual stuff tells us we should be beings that should live our life to the fullest, no matter what. And they don't want us to be happy. That's what the modern world is. It's just a lie the modern world is.
Well, I mean, we're kind of like fucking gerbils in a cage and we don't know it. Whether or not you agree with the Gnostics that we're on a prison planet, we essentially might as fucking well be. We're in a debt-based, I don't like to say that we're debt slaves, but we sort of are. That's kind of the system that they keep you in. It's just this fascinating thing that and fucked up that you absolutely have to use money or you're fucked. And so you have to do something to make money. And so they like keep you in this like, so like in America, you can never actually own property. I own this house, but if I don't like pay the property taxes, they'll come over here and point a gun in my face and take my land and kick me off. And if I resist, they'll shoot me. You know, that's what they do. So it's one of those things that you're forced into the system, no matter what.
And that's one of the reasons why they should get rid of the income tax, because it's the whole thing comes from the banking system. It comes from the Babylonian, you know, type of ideology that was used to control
taxes
the world,
in general. Just get rid of all of them.
Exactly. You know.
Yeah.
I
but as far as sorry, go ahead.
Look, the thing is, of me, I'm okay with a welfare state. I'm okay with their people, you know, pretty much getting the help they need in society. And look, don't get me wrong. I think people should get the help in society that they need. I think if anybody is down or is a hard condition, but you know, when you look at like poor people in society, and then you got like a lot of people who say, well, they put themselves in that situation, but there's a lot of poor people, especially in the West, who get fucked over by the banking system, who can't pay their rent on time because the system's just corrupt, you know? And, you know,
there's a lot of factors.
Exactly.
There's a lot of factors. So, I mean, personally, I'm against a welfare state just because I think that requires a government. And it will inherently take, I mean, so the problem with like these government programs is they inherently want to get bigger. So it's basically, think about it like this. I've heard it explained this way. Okay. So let's say you're a homeless person and I'm a regular dude, and you come and you ask me for $1, or let's say you ask me for like $100. You're like, man, I really need $100. Like maybe I can get, you know, a hotel for the night and some food. And I go, okay. And so I hand you $100 and you're on your merry way. And whatever you do with that is up to you. I don't, you know, maybe you're just going to buy heroin. I don't know, or booze, or maybe you're going to get a hotel for the night and some food. Now, so the way that welfare states work, and this is how it just gets out of control, is like you have to put in a middleman. So then
people rely too much on the government. And when they rely too much on the government, then the government.
Well, there's that. There's that aspect of it. But it's like, let's say that there's a third person. So I'm drinking out of a Donald Trump mug because I think it's funny and it makes people mad. So here's the Donald Trump mug. He's the third person here. He doesn't even pop up with my green screen thing. Okay. But so he says that he has to give you the $100. So I give him the $100. He takes his cut and then you get it. So like basically how it works in a welfare state is like for every like dollar that is taxed from me, you're only going to get like 10 cents of it, maybe 1 cent of it, because the government takes it and uses it for whatever the fuck they want. So, and like the problem is that like government don't have an incentive to like get a good deal or not to buy something crazy and extravagant because it's not their money, and they can just either print it out of nowhere or they can just tax it some more. So like, and they also have an incentive to use their entire budget or else it'll shrink next year. So they do things like every single new governor that comes in or every congressman, all of those folks are allowed to have like, I don't know, they give themselves like a $50,000 budget for their office every year. So what do they do? Every year they buy brand new fucking couches, brand new paintings on the walls, new carpets and shit. When the carpets and couches are just fine from last year, but they have to use that budget. So then they just, it's just a fucking, dude. Anyways, now I'm getting all autistic on you. The welfare state is a problem because of government. Now, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, how I think it should be done is that we have nice, small, tight-knit communities where we all fucking know each other. And if there's someone that's like poor and hurting in you know, in our community, that's our responsibility. And I think that is what has happened is it's negated the responsibility of the community. And it's kind of like let us wash our hands of it. We just say, oh, welfare will take care of it. But no, like if our friend down here is like hurting and they lost their house, or, you know, they're fucking hungry, they like homie lost his job, we're supposed to fucking take care of him. That's the way it's supposed to work. Now that's through like charity. That is through like voluntary people giving. That's from the church. The church kind of has dropped their mantle too. That's what the church was supposed to do. If you read the Bible, like God said, you're supposed to take care of the widows. You're supposed to take care of like the kids. You're supposed to like, that's where I think that people should be taken care of, and not by this unaccountable state that can just like, cause now they're taking like, I don't know what taxes are for you, but they're taking easily half of my check.
Absolutely ridiculous. They're absolutely ridiculous here. And there's a lot of people say in Australia that, oh, it is not bad. It is pretty bad in Australia, especially during COVID, you know, the lockdowns, which increased it even more.
Well, and then they use your tax monies to go like fucking bomb little kids in third world countries.
Exactly. I know, especially fighting like a proxy war, and also helping fund, you know, neo-Nazis in Ukraine.
In Ukraine, yeah, right now.
Insanity, man.
So I don't like the idea of it, because that's how they'll justify it. They'll say like, hey, we just want to help people. We just need some welfare. So you just give us your money. And then meanwhile, they're like buying extravagant fucking, like this one guy, I think, like, I don't remember the exact details of it, but this particular politician bought $50,000 carpets.
Wow.
Fuck you. And you know what? I'm pretty sure it was in West Virginia, which is one of the poorest fucking states in the country. They're poor as fuck. And the governor was like, yeah, I'll get $50,000 carpets. That person can go fuck themselves.
So, Nat, tell me about your podcast. What made you start your podcast, and what was your journey to like the horror of conspiracy theories, and what led you into the road of like waking up?
Sure, man. As far as starting the podcast, I've been a fucking fan of podcasts for like the last probably 6 to 8 years, and I would just devour them. I think I probably started with like Joe Rogan, and started listening to a really funny comedy podcast called Legion of Skanks. They're really funny. You should check them out, but they're dirty, so just be prepared for that. And then from there, one of the guys from Legion of Skanks is called Dave Smith, and Dave Smith is a libertarian, and I listened to his podcast that he did with Ari Shaffir. He does one every year. They call it the State of the Union Address. And so they sit there and they talk about like the state of the world and stuff. And he described libertarianism, and I was a disenfranchised lefty. Like I was pretty left. I basically considered myself a socialist and an SJW and a loser. And then I just saw the left like giving up on all of its principles. Like the only good things about like the left were that they were anti-war.
2016, because in 2012 they used to be anti-big pharma, they used to be, you know, against the big industries, and then they just lost their way, you know, they just pretty much got overtaken, you know.
Yeah, well, and then I saw that crumbling, and then them constantly turning on each other, and then like it just got ugly and stupid, and I was kind of sick of it. And that's when they were really starting to push the like male privilege kind of shit, and like because I was in college, I was taking some classes, and like there was like this weird pressure to like before I could say anything, you're supposed to say like you're supposed to like apologize for your privilege or something. And I was like, dude, fuck you. No, fuck you.
What's your nationality, Nat?
I'm a beaner. I'm Mexican.
Mexican. Did you have any like of those college teachers say you should apologize for your white privilege? Oh my god! And then you're like,
it's just straight male privilege. That's bad enough. I don't want to suck a dick, and I happen to have a penis, so I'm a piece of shit, and I need to apologize for it. Well, how about fuck off? I'm sorry, you're a fucking loser. There's my apology.
I know the political correctness stuff is just absolutely insane. with Dave Smith, I've heard that a lot of libertarians would pick him as the running, choice for the libertarian candidate for president. Would you pick Dave Smith, and do you think he's got the right qualifications, or would you pick someone else?
Well, the first thing is I'm an anarchist, and I don't fucking vote. You're not an anarchist if you vote. That's first. So I wouldn't. But as far as his qualifications go, a libertarian has this much chance of ever winning ever. Like there's not. If Dave Smith got 5% of the vote, that would be insane. Insane. Like, holy shit. So there's not a point. But if he's trying to do what he says he's trying to do, which is just trying to ignite the old Ron Paul movement, like trying to get people excited about libertarianism again and try to convert people over to libertarianism. And so he's going to use the political pulpit, I guess, to preach libertarianism and have some good, some viral moments where he shut somebody down because they're stupid and any point. Dave's really good at that, man. Every time he's on one of those news channels, he fucking kills it. I think that Dave is smart. I think that I agree with him about probably 98% of things. And
what is your favorite policy, even though you're an anarchist and you don't believe in, there being president, and you don't believe in government systems, what is the one thing, though, that you like about Dave Smith, the one favorite policy that you have of his that you really like?
What do I like? I mean, he's a libertarian and so am I. So, we agree on a lot of things. I'm just an anti-political libertarian. I'm an agorist, and so we're anti-political. But I like a lot of what Dave Smith has to say. His stance on being adamantly anti-war and anti-drug war are probably my favorite things about him. Mm-hmm. He's a smart dude.
And about how the drug war, has really, damaged a lot of families, and it's absolutely outrageous. I had Angela McGurnall on my last show, the head of the Libertarian, National Committee, who's
she's a pretty cool lady.
Party. And
yeah, I respect her
about the drug industry and not drug industry, but how the war on drugs has been devastating for the families. And it's a lot of libertarians get shit, and because the conservatives will say that, if we legalize all drugs, it's going to cause an epidemic and stuff like that. No, it won't. Not everybody who, if drugs were all illegal, not everybody who goes on drugs is going to buy, and there's going to be this some drug epidemic. If you look at Portugal has, for example, they barely, have a war on drugs, and they have one of the lowest uses of drug rates in the world, one of the lowest,
and they also lowered, their AIDS, as far as AIDS transmissions, and they also lowered their overdoses by cut them in half, if not more. Yeah, it's been nothing but extremely successful. And yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're absolutely right about that. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but you can look it up on YouTube later. Ron Paul was brought to some because he's conservative as fuck. Ron Paul is Christian, married his whole, married forever. He was a country doctor. He has, I don't know if Ron Paul served in the military. I think he did. I think he even might have been a vet. But anyways, he was sitting there and he was invited to some Christian political event, right? And they asked him they were trying to do kind of a gotcha thing, and they were asking him well, do you think we should legalize heroin? And Ron Paul is just always honest. He doesn't care. So he was absolutely, I do. And so they started booing him because, this was in probably 98, maybe. This seemed like a pretty young Ron Paul. And he's just all right, hold on. Out of all of you guys, so if heroin was legalized tomorrow, how many of you would start doing it? And then everyone was no. And he was then what's the problem? And then he just started breaking down the issues. hey, if drugs are legal, then I can buy it in a store. And I could buy it in a store that was made in a laboratory that has been like double, triple checked and certified. So there's no fucking rat poison in it. There's no fentanyl in it. I know exactly the amount that I'm taking. I know that it's safe. I'm also not going to get like robbed in the street for it. I'm also not going to, you know, all of these things that just like, so all of a sudden overdoses are going to be cut in half. Now there's going to be the gang violence and all of the money, because it's a black market, that goes away. And so you're not going to have like cartels. You're not. Yeah. So, I mean, Ron Paul like won the crowd over by his logic. So that's a fucking great interview. You should check that one out.
Yeah, I will absolutely check that out. You know, that sounds cool. What is your favorite interview that you've done on your podcast?
Oh man, I don't know. I've done over probably like 150 at this point. I think I've got 122 out to the public, but I've probably got about 150 in the can. My favorite. Hold on, I'm actually going to look at my at my list of shows here. I'll have to give you a couple answers. So one of them I know for sure is I talked to Sal the Agorist, and this was when he was writing a book. Let me see here. I can probably pull it up here. But basically, oh man, what the hell is the name of that book? I have a couple copies actually. I could grab one, but I don't want to go and run and get it. It is called Anti-Politics is the name of his book. So me and him had this long conversation about basically civil disobedience, peaceful civil disobedience, and the way that that's Christ-like. And we had this like, because I'm a Christian as well, so we had this anarcho-Christian like conversation. We talked about pacifism, and we talked about peaceful civil disobedience and how that's more powerful against the system than picking up a gun and trying to shoot someone. Because I'll give you for instance, let's say like, well, you can look at Gandhi, right? Gandhi was a peaceful civil disobedience kind of guy. He gathered everyone together and they just said, hey, we're not going to go to work. We're not going to keep the system going. We are going to disobey, but we're going to do this non-violently. And so what that does is it makes the government, whatever government is oppressing you at the time, it makes them have to either listen to common sense and go, okay, we're going to listen to what you guys have to say, or it makes them have to pick out a big stick or a gun and makes them take off their mask, and it makes them show themselves to the tyrants they are. They're like, okay, I'm sitting here peacefully telling you that I'm not going to pay my taxes because you are using our tax money when we're broke. We're fucking broke. We're just barely making ends meet. We're trying to live here. And you're taking hundreds of billions of dollars and giving it to Ukraine right now. Well, we say no, and we say fuck you. And we're going to stand here, and we're going to stand here together. We're not going to work. We're not doing anything that you're saying, and we are not going to pay it. And so the government has two choices. They come in with a gun pointed at your head, and they show what fucking tyrants they are, or they're going to have to listen. Because if you pick up a gun and you say, I'm going to violently oppose my government, guess what? Then you look like the asshole, and they look justified. They want you to do that. They want you to go look crazy like January 6th. They want you to look like one of those nuts. So then they feel that they have the legitimate right to go in there with force and make you and take you out. So if you act peacefully, then anyway, so that was one of my favorite episodes. That one is a great episode. That was with Sal the Agorist. But man, I've had a ton of really interesting and awesome conversations on my show. I don't know. It's really hard to pick that up.
I watched the one where you interviewed David Icke, where you were talking about the dimensions and stuff like that. And I also watched the one where you met that guy where you were talking with like Hollow Earth and about like Sasquatches and Bigfoot pretty much being beings that live under Earth and they're pretty much aliens and fallen angels. That was a pretty cool one.
Okay, was that? I'm pretty sure that that was with. That was Top Secret Texan. I'm pretty sure that.
That was
Yeah,
him.
yeah, that was a fascinating one, man.
And about how people in those caves go missing around in the United States, which is absolutely insane. Which is pretty, when you found that fact out, what were you like? Were you just like, oh?
Yeah, man, it's fascinating as shit because, there could be a million reasons. Because, I mean, there are weird groups of like satanic cults that legitimately fucking sacrifice people and like kill people. And that could be a big reason why people go missing. And then when you find out that a lot of those satanic cults are actually tied in with the government, and so that might have something to do with maybe even the park rangers at those like big, because so many people go get lost in those what the hell are they called? They're big old national parks, like especially what's the one that everyone like near Mount Shasta. People just go fucking missing out there. Yosemite. People just go missing out in Yosemite and never get found again.
Mm-hmm. What was the most dodgy story out of all of those that Texas guy told you about?
One that's hard to believe? What do you mean by dodgy?
Like one that you find very sketchy and very scary.
Sketchy and scary. Well, I mean, just the idea that they're taking young kids and they're doing like secret space program stuff is pretty wild. And like, I'm pretty sure I've had it like several conversations with him now. I'm gonna put out the part 2 and part 3 pretty soon, but I'm pretty sure he was telling me at one point that like a lot of these people are cloned, and like I'm pretty sure that like maybe there's even clones of him still in outer space and shit.
That is very, very trippy. Wow. Who knows? Maybe all of us would have been cloned by now.
Well, and then also the idea that the Greys are like, they were made by those aliens. So they were like an artificially created being that was almost more like plant than like person, but that they've kind of broken free and have their own sentience now, and they kind of have their own agenda. And so they're just like, they have no like humanity or like humility for people. They just kind of have like a hive mind kind of thing. So Greys are freaky if that's the case.
So yeah. What else episodes did you really enjoy too?
If you listen to the one I did with Ole Damigard, that was a fucking awesome one, man. I called him the spiritual general. He's just the shit, man. Ole Damigard is one of my heroes, man. That was a privilege to get to talk with the guy. And we talked about just like the levels of consciousness and how you can fight in this spiritual battle. I mean, because that is basically the elites are trying to attack us on every single way they can. And a big way they do that is spiritually. This is a spiritual battle. Let's see here. What's another fun one? I loved getting to talk about the Bach saga with Andy Rouse. Shout out to Andy Rouse from the Deep Share. That was a fun one. I got to talk to, oh man, that was a fun one too. I got to talk Odd Man. So episode 68, we talked about Fabian socialism. A lot of these,
What's Fabian socialism?
Fabian socialism, that's a fucking interesting topic, dude. So in 1884, this group of like rich, very upper crust, white English people decided to form a society. They formed this group. And they were kind of like enamored with Karl Marx and communism. They were like, that's awesome. Yeah, we like that. We want that. But they didn't like how like Stalin and Lenin and all those folks were like going about it. They were like, these revolutionaries, they're just too ham-fisted. They're like, if they're going to get too much resistance by doing it like forcefully. So the Fabians, they have a saying, and they have two they have two mascots. One mascot is this tortoise, and this tortoise underneath it. You can find this if you Google it, Fabian Society. You can find this, and it says, "For the time to strike, we wait, but when we strike hard." So their whole methodology was this like slow and steady infiltration. So they have been taking over institutions and governments and governments in general. And they are called Fabians. They're Fabian socialists is what they call themselves. And the other mascot of theirs, and they have this, I can't remember what college campus this is at, but they have like a fraternity house or like an old building where it was started. And they have this big, it's really beautiful. What the heck do you call that? That glass, stained glass, big stained glass. And it is a wolf in sheep's clothing. So they're not very subtle about what they're all about. And so this Fabian society, this Fabian socialist society, have been behind almost every single big crazy group that is out now. Like the Fabians, the Rockefellers were Fabians, the Rothschilds are Fabians. They're just this group of psychopaths, and they're the ones that started the World Economic Forum. They started the Club of Rome. They've started all these different groups. And so when you hear Klaus Schwab was I don't know if he is definitely a Fabian, but I don't know if anyways. So you hear him say things like, in the Canadian Parliament, we have such and such amount of like young global leaders, right? And he says that we basically have half the government.
Same thing with Britain, same thing with a lot of Western countries,
and so
Australia.
If you read in between the lines, what he's saying is all of those governments have Fabian socialists there, and they're just ready to strike when I say. That's what it is, man. It's been this slow infiltration of government and all these institutions, and they're all just run by these Fabian socialists. It's really ugly. Anyways, that's an ugly, weird one. But fascinating.
What's another interesting thing you talked to him about?
With Oddman? Or any topic in general with other folks?
Other topics with other people. Like, what do you think? What do you think out of all the topics you talked to people about was the most like sketchiest one and the most creepiest one?
Sketchy and creepy. It probably would be Fabian socialism, but let's see here. I mean, I really enjoy the topic of Tartaria, and so just the rewriting of history and us being lied to about our history, that's pretty creepy and terrible. Yeah, that's a pretty creepy and terrible one. Let's see here. Also had an episode on like Canaan and Babylon and the banking systems, or that was a creepy one too. Episode 91, if people want to look that one up. That was with Ryan Dean from Dangerous World. So shout out to Ryan. He's fucking awesome. We talked about the UN and the Lucius Trust. And the Lucius Trust, man.
What is the Lucius Trust?
So this was back in the 1800s too. I think the end of the or very early 1900s. I don't want to talk out of my ass. Why don't I just look this up while I'm doing this? So the Lucius Trust was this lady, and let me look it up so I don't talk out of my ass. Lucius Trust. What's that lady's name? Alice Bailey is her name. And Alice Bailey was like an acolyte of, she was really, she loved, I just can't think of her first name, but Helena Blavatsky and these like weird spiritualists of the 1900s. And so they had this like the Lucius Trust, also called the Lucifer Trust or Lucifer Publications is what it was started as. And they changed it to the Lucis Trust because it had the name Lucifer in it, and it freaked people out. And so now it's called the Lucius Trust. Is this organization that was created to like I don't even know what the fuck it was supposed to do, but it works with the UN, the United Nations, and so it appears to be this like above board like globalist society that like is part of the UN, but like they're into some weird spiritual heebie-jeebie shit, and they have this annual invocation. So they try to invocate, try to bring about this cosmic Christ that they're talking about. Basically the Antichrist. And they like have these weird, like, and so you think about the UN, you're like, isn't this supposed to be like a group of like governments and like smart people that are just trying to like help humanity and trying to, you know, help with like foreign affairs and foreign policy? And you're like, no, they're just a bunch of psychos that are trying to control the fucking globe. And they, you know, they have those blue helmet assholes that they're going to like send everywhere. They have like a world army. And then they're also trying to like invocate the Antichrist to come back. And they're trying to like create a one world government and a one world religion. And it's really creepy and crazy. And so if you go to the Lucius Trust website, you can look up the Great Invocation. And I wouldn't suggest anyone like read it out loud because it's creepy. It's like a weird prayer that they, or like spell trying to bring about this being.
They do a lot of that stuff, especially earlier in this year. There was a sporting event where they were doing the horn worship of the Baal god, pretty much. It's just so horrific, man. And especially
my buddy sent me that. That was pretty interesting. It was the Commonwealth Games, right?
Yeah, Commonwealth Games. And it was pretty creepy, especially out in the 2012 Olympics, how the 2012 Olympics had the masks and like the vaccine thing. There's a 2012 opener ceremony. It alludes to today's, you know, it's absolutely just...
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the thing is that like if you don't understand this kind of stuff, they plan this shit out. Like I actually didn't answer all of your questions earlier. How I got started, how we started the podcast and stuff. We started the podcast in 2021. Yeah, I guess it had to have been 2021, or was it 2020? Anyways, around there. I think it was 2021 when we started the podcast. This was like. Okay, so back in 2020, like deep lockdown, Oregon was one of the worst states, dude. Oregon is like sandwiched in between. Here's Washington, here's California, Oregon's right in the middle. And Oregon, our shitty governor, her name is Kate Brown, and she's a bitch, does absolutely anything that Inslee up in Washington or Gavin Newsom in California says. So anytime they say something, then she just was like, okay, yeah, we're doing that. So Oregon sucked, dude. Like Oregon was so like the lockdowns were fucking nuts, dude. And I was losing my mind, and I was like, man, this is terrible. And I had been red pilled by a few folks, and I was smart enough about this that like none of our family got jabbed. Like none of us got the woke poke, and we were smart enough to know that this was all bullshit. So I was a libertarian at the time. I was an anarchist at the time. And there was these anarchist groups that were getting together, kind of like they were called the Liberty Movement and also Freedom Cells, if you're familiar with any of those type of groups. And it's just like self-autonomous groups of folks that get together and promote liberty, and like maybe we'll go out and go target shooting and like get like sufficient, you know, get good with a weapon and things, and just like train and that kind of thing. So there was a group up around Seattle, and they wanted, I don't remember how this happened, but anyway, long story short, I'm a chef by trade, and I had access to some pigs because like my aunt's pig farm, basically, my wife's aunt, 2020 happened. And she would normally take in her pigs to go get slaughtered, right? And they would go and get FDA certified or whatever, and then she'd be able to sell it. But because COVID happened, all that shit went like sideways, and like people were put on like a 2-year waiting list. It would take her 2 years to get her pigs processed, which is ridiculous. So she had too many pigs that needed to get culled. So I went over there with a gun, and me and I would reach out to my community, like the Liberty community out here, and I was like, hey, does somebody want to help me? Like, I'm gonna shoot these pigs, and then let's go and teach us a pig slaughtering class. So I'd hooked up with the folks up in like the Seattle area, and they were like, yeah, man, that would be fucking cool if you taught like a pig butchering class. And so I was like, okay, I'll definitely do it. And the only person that volunteered was my co-host, Tony. My buddy Tony was like, yeah, I'll come help you. And so like, we went over there, we shot the pigs, we stuck them, bled them, hung them, skinned them, you know, and then brought them up to Seattle to the other group. And I sat there and taught everybody how to like butcher pigs. And we did the whole thing together and had a great time. And on the way from Portland-ish area to Seattle-ish area, me and Tony had like several hours of time to talk. And so this was like a great time. This was like in the middle of hot lockdown. You're not even supposed to go into Washington. If you go into Washington and come back, you were supposed to self-quarantine for 2 weeks. Like, that's how kooky this shit was. Like, literally crossing a state line. I mean, I think you guys know that because they did that shit in, like, I know they did that in Australia and stuff, right? They did all
it's absolutely insanity, you know, the lockdowns that were happening in Australia and the tyranny we saw there.
So on the drive to and from, me and him just had this awesome conversation, dude. We talked about everything. We were talking about conspiracy theories. We were talking about politics. We were talking about this, that, and the other. And we were like, man, we could turn this into a show. This would be a lot of fun. I've always wanted to start a podcast. And so that's kind of how that was our origin story. Just we were two buddies and we had kind of like connected that way. And that's kind of how we started the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go for it. I don't know.
What has been your favorite thing about doing the show with Tony?
Oh, dude, I get to talk to my heroes, man. I've got to talk to so many like really fucking cool people that I've been listening to for years. Like David Icke. I've been listening to David Icke for years, man. And then I got to talk to David Icke. How fucking cool is that? James Evan Pilato, an awesome show. Everyone should listen to, The Media Monarchy. One of my very, very favorite shows that I listen to every day. I got to talk to James Evan Pilato. That's like it. And I haven't really talked about it yet, but like I just got to talk to Richard Grove like 2 weeks ago from Grand Theft World. I always remember his old show, the Peace Revolution podcast. So Grand Theft World. So shout out to Richard Grove. I'm going to put out that episode probably next Monday. I'm pretty excited about, like, I think that's probably been the coolest thing is just like getting to have really awesome, interesting conversations with people that I could only dream of getting to talk to.
Mm-hmm. What was your favorite book from David Icke, the one that you really liked the most?
That's a good question, man. I can't even fucking remember the names of the books. I have them in the other room. In fact, I probably have one of his books right next to me somewhere. Where the hell is it? He actually sent me a copy of his latest book, The Trap. And I have no fucking idea where it's at right now. But it should be in here. I think it's in one of these drawers. Anyways, yeah, dude, how fucking cool is that? David Icke sent me a copy of his book to read. That's how fucking awesome is that? That's like I'm living a dream come true, man. That's the best part of this podcast is that I get to talk to awesome fucking people.
It is cool, eh? What is your favorite thing about anarchism that you really like, and what do you think are the biggest misconceptions people have about anarchism? Because a lot of conservatives say that anarchists believe that you have a society. A lot of conservatives say that anarchists believe in a society that doesn't have a rule of law, and then it can't work. And what is your response that you say to people when they say that?
Okay, so my favorite part about anarchism is well, I mean, and it has to be theoretical because nobody actually lives in anarchism, unfortunately. But I would probably say just that it is voluntary interactions, peaceful voluntary interactions, and that is true anarchism. So when someone says something like, you guys want to live in a lawless society, I say, no, that we don't. It means no rules, not no rulers. Or the other way around. Other way around. It means no rulers, not no rules. So there would absolutely be like what I advocate for, man, is like small, like maybe 500 people size communities that work well with each other, that have free trade with each other, that have bartering with each other, and that you have. I don't like the idea of like democracy per se, but I mean, it has to be voluntary in this situation. And so like so if there's going to be a leader, it's going to be something like a wise man that's been part of our community that we trust, right? He could be the arbiter. He could be the leader. There could be a council of like elders and like wise women and wise men. And we have a fucking community where there's just not someone that waves a gun in your face.
So what is your favorite idea, like your favorite, quotes from any anarchist, person or philosophical,
Man, that's a fucking hard question. Because I'm really bad at pulling up exact quotes, but let's see here. What would be a favorite quote of mine? There's been so fucking many. There are some really good ones. I read Michael Malice's book. Oh, man. God damn it. What the hell is Michael Malice's book? The Anarchist Handbook. There are some fantastic quotes in there. I don't know, man. I can't pull a quote out of my ass right now. But let's see here. What's a good saying, man? I'm sorry, dude. That's a terrible answer.
Well, what was your favorite interview from an anarchist?
Favorite interview from an anarchist is almost any interview that I have with Sal. Sal's a great dude. Positive energy. I always feel white pilled after we have a conversation because he's just always so optimistic, and he always has like. But another fun interview that I had with an anarchist was this one was an old one, man. This one was pretty old back in the day. Let's look him up. Magnus Panvidia, I think is how you say his name. He is a pretty fucking neat dude. Let's see here. And we were talking about panarchy. And at the time, I still sort of believe that panarchy could work. And I do ultimately want to see a kind of a panarchist society because I think that's the only way that
what is panarchism?
Okay, so here it is. Magnus Panvidia. This is episode 29. Damn, this is an old one. So basically, we believe in bottom unity, right? So if you look at the political spectrum, I don't know if you're familiar with the political compass, where it's cut into 4 quadrants, right? And so you have your hard left and your hard right, and those are the guys up top. And then you got your bottom left and bottom right. So you have your authoritarian left and right up top, and your libertarian left and right down at the bottom. So what we advocate for, like panarchy, is bottom unity. So the left libertarians and the right libertarians, us being able to work with each other and being able to like live and let live, basically. Like say, hey, we want to live in a free, open society. We want to be able to trade amongst ourselves. We want to have peaceful interactions amongst ourselves, and we'll agree on some rules. We'll have some guidelines, but basically, like, we'll leave you alone, you leave us alone, and we can unify in that way. And I won't tell you how to live. You won't tell me how to live. We'll have our little Ancapiscan and agorist little thing here. You can have your mutualism. You can have your anarcho-communism, and we'll all just have a anarchist society. Like, that's what bottom unity is having the left and right work together, as long as you're a libertarian, as long as you're a voluntarist, basically, and you don't advocate for violence against your political enemies.
That is
very I like.
So where did you get the idea of like the Trump mug? Because I see a lot on Instagram.
Somebody gave this to me. Somebody gave this to me.
Like a lot of things about Trump. What is
your thoughts? Well, mostly shitty things about Trump. I'm not a Trump fan.
So with like Donald Trump, when you look at like how right wingers seem to worship him as this perfect, no, not all right wingers do, but there are some right wingers who say he can't do nothing wrong. I was talking to a right winger yesterday, and he was telling me about like how Donald Trump, actually just, didn't ban guns, but yet he did red flag laws, which are very unconstitutional. And how also Donald Trump, was also, funding the war in Yemen, still with Saudi Arabia. Even
who are you talking to?
And it was just someone. I'm not going to name the person, but
it wasn't in an interview.
No. But
okay,
it was,
gotcha.
It was, and he was telling me that also Donald Trump, did a lot to, fight big tech. He did enough to fight, the Federal Reserve, and then he's like, all of a sudden, Donald Trump couldn't just do it straight away. When you like hear conservatives bringing up that point to like about Trump and like him being this amazing guy, I mean, he's done some good things. What is your opinion to that? And what is like the type of arrogance of Trump supporters that you can't stand?
Well, it's more, I mean, there is some like arrogance, but it's more just ignorance, dude. They're fucking stupid. My problem with a lot of conservatives, now there are some conservatives that are principled and are educated and have good arguments, and I respect them. But there's a lot of people that are just like culturally conservative, and they just like what Trump says. And you're like, okay, he might say nice things, but like you said, like he was pushing the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates because he was spending more money than fucking God. Before Joe Biden,
especially getting more, them to print more money during the lockdowns and stuff like that.
But and even before that, he passed a fucking boondoggle bullshit. And then COVID happened. And then he passed shit that was even bigger. It was fucking wild, man. Like, you cannot tell me you're a conservative and that, like, you want to conserve the Union, you want to conserve the Constitution, and then you want to have a small, limited government, and then have your hero be this guy that blew government out of the fucking water. And then you tell me you care about like free speech and shit. Like, okay, well, he was prosecuting, what's his name? Guy that came from, what the fuck is that asshole's name? Give me 2 seconds.
Edward Snowden?
Not fuck Edward Snowden. He's a bitch. The other guy. Julian Assange. Yeah. So you're going to tell me that you care about free speech and the First Amendment, and then you're totally cool with him fucking like prosecuting and being a cock to fucking Julian Assange? Okay, and then you're going to tell me that you love the Second Amendment, and then you hear Donald Trump say, "I'm the biggest Second Amendment president we've ever had," and then he's just like you said, he was after red flag laws. He was like, "We'll take the guns first. We'll do due process second." You're like, the due process is what you do before you take the guns, dumbass. You don't do the due process second. It's not due process then, you fucking retard. And then more than that, he was trying to ban bump stocks. He was banning just like he did more for gun control than Obama did. And people still just worship him. And like, anyways, they're just the problem with Republicans in general and the people that consider themselves conservative but don't actually have any principles is that they don't know what they just go with whatever is going on in the Republican Party. They don't have any actual principles. They just do whatever the fuck they're told. So like, it is in no way, shape, or form our business or should have anything to do with us giving goo gobs of money to Israel. That's not our fucking problem. That should have nothing to do with the United States. We've already given them hundreds of billions of dollars. We've done it for decades at this point. It should be done. Like, stand up on your own 2 feet. They have one of the biggest, like, well-trained and well-armed armies in the whole fucking world. And they have a fucking fantastic economy. Okay, Israel, Like, you're a baby bird, I guess. We're kicking you out of the nest. We don't need to give you a fucking $100 billion every year. But the conservatives just love it. And you're like, you're not small government then. You never were. You're not actually. You support the army that is enormous and that is just like causing conflict and like killing people all around the world. Like, and like, fuck off, dude. You're fucking stupid. And Donald Trump is a liar and a piece of shit. Is he better than Joe Biden? Yeah, but a houseplant is better than fucking Joe Biden.
I know, and especially like when you look at Biden the other day when he was like suffering with dementia, and and you see the new debate with like vitamin and like Dr. Oz. That was absolutely painful. You know, I mean,
dude, it's painful. Yeah, you're right. It's painful to watch it.
Vitamin, I wish Vitamin the best. I think it's terrible what happened to him. Him getting a stroke. I think it's absolutely awful. I wish him the best of luck with him to be used like that. It's just absolutely terrible. And at the end of the day, you go back to Trump and Biden, they're just puppets, you know? Like, dude, Donald Trump was also, like, seen in a photo. He called Carl Schwab a good guy. You know, he was also hanging with the World Economic Forum. He was also, praising a lot of, things like,
dude, he's still all about the vaccines, too. He's like, of course I'm boosted. Yeah, I'm boosted. And he's pushing it, and he's like patting himself on the back about Operation Warp Speed. And you're like, oh, that's great. So like you skipped all the safety trials, and like those safety trials are still going on right now, and we're just finding out how fucked up your piece of shit jab that you are so proud of is. And it's like there's literally young healthy people that are just dropping dead left and right like fucking flies. We're just supposed to pretend that's normal. Fuck your new normal. Fuck your jab. Fuck you, Trump.
Jesus,
as I sip out of his head.
Wow, man, Like, look, I just want to say to everybody, I'm not like someone who would say that, but your opinion, that's all good, Nat, you're here to speak. What do you think before Donald Trump was running in 2016, especially like the Democrats? Now, here's a funny question. What do you think that where the Democrats were accusing Trump of, which we all know that the Russian conclusion was bullshit. We all know that like everything else, a lot of it was rubbish. But what do you think that the Democrats really should have used against him? In like, what do you think let's say if you were a Democratic person, or let's just say you're a libertarian or anarchist person running for office, what would be the one scandal like that you would use against Trump to take him down? Like his tax returns, nothing like this, like nothing for the vaccines, because a lot of people criticizing him for that, like the Yemen thing. What is the one other thing that you would use that nobody would really know about what he's done?
Before he ran? So you're talking about 2016, or you're talking about his 2020 run?
2024 run.
Oh, now, if I was running against him now.
Yeah.
Okay. Because back in 2016, I don't have, too much baggage on him. But so running against Donald Trump now. Okay, well, he never ended any of the wars like he said he was going to. He never he talked a big game about like 9/11 truth and shit, and then he backed away and backed up all of that. Let's see here. He is just a big government. He's basically a fucking he's basically like a soft Democrat, dude. I mean, he's all about big government. Let's see here. What are some good indicting things on that son of a bitch? I mean, besides his Corona policy and his jab policy. I mean, he's a neoliberal warmonger that like talks a good game. He doesn't believe anything he says. So, I mean, the best way to anyways, the best way to run against him is to actually have a principled positions and point out where he isn't principled. Like he doesn't like, I don't know, man. Like if you're going to cut taxes like he did, which I'm all about cutting taxes. You also have to cut spending. Because if not, then you're just continuing to add to the deficit, which is just more taxing. Because the way the deficit works, man, like every single time they expand the deficit, that's more taxes down the road because it's a promise that we're going to pay it later, right? So he cut some taxes, which was great. That was awesome. But he didn't cut any actual spending. In fact, his spending went up. And then he claimed I'm sure he cut a couple regulations, but like I would run against him as far as tariffs go, because I don't think tariffs do anything besides tax the American people. All it does is make us spend more money for foreign products. So it just makes us spend more money. So it taxes the people because the person selling the product isn't going to pay more. They're just going to make the product more expensive to pay for the tariffs. So it ends up being a tax on the American consumer. But I would just say I would also run against him on his support for Israel. And he claims to be America first and then wants to send goo gobs of money to Israel. I don't know what Donald Trump is his rhetoric, because I don't listen to the man anymore. Is he all about Ukraine and things like that? I don't know where he stands on that, but if he is, I would definitely stand against him about that. I don't know. Donald Trump honestly talks a good game, but he is just he's just a liar.
Mm-hmm. So what is your predictions for the midterms? Do you think it's going to be a red wave, or do you think it's going to be a blue wave?
Yeah, I think the Democrats have painted themselves in a huge fucking hole. They have radicalized. See, okay, here's the thing. It's like, I think that this is all orchestrated, man. I think this is all just fucking horseshit. Like, I don't, like, again, I'm an anarchist and I don't vote. And I don't vote for a reason because I think that all of this is, like, decided, like, behind the scenes, and that, honestly, our votes don't actually even count. I don't even think they fucking count our votes. They just tell us, like, if you think our votes count, like, do you actually think Joe Biden won more votes than any president ever in history? They say that, like, what was it, like 76 million people or something voted for him. They're saying that more people voted for Joe Biden in 2020 than voted for Barack Obama in 2012 and 2016. Like, I just don't fucking buy it. Like, they're lying. Our votes don't count. Okay, but anyways, yes, I think that the Republicans are going to win hard, like big, major time, because all of these things that the Democrats have been pushing, again, I think it's all orchestrated, are massively unpopular, dude. Like, the majority of people are pretty fucking sane as far as, and they're pretty libertarian in a lot of things that they, like, most people, like, you know, accept gay people and don't really care if they get married. And, like, all of that stuff, that used to be a Republican or a Democratic standpoint, right? And, like, that was okay. And that was reasonable. And everyone was like, okay, yeah, I guess two adults, they should be able to get married, and fuck you. Like, who cares? Like, they're two adults. They're consenting adults. Like, let them get married. But now they're like, the Democrats, and I swear to God, I think that they're literally doing this on purpose to fuck with people. And, like, why are you pushing, like, abortion up until birth? Like, back in the day, they used to push safe, legal, and rare. That's what they called it. They wanted it to be like, they wanted it to be safe for women to have abortions. They wanted it to be legal to have abortions, but they also wanted it to be rare. And they were also like, well, this is for extenuating circumstances, like if a girl was raped or something, or if, like, there's going to be harm to the baby, or if they're, like, horribly deformed or something, you know. And that's the way they pushed it. And now you have, like, Democratic politicians saying that, like, even if the baby is, like, born, you can still kill it. It can be born healthy altogether, and they're like, kill it.
What is your opinion on abortion?
In my personal life, I'm pro-life, meaning if like me and my wife, we have kids, but if like a baby was Down syndrome, if the whatever, we would keep the baby, we'd raise the baby, we would love the fucking baby. We're pro-life in our personal lives. I am also very wary about letting government be in charge of things like that. So I don't advocate actual laws against abortion. What I would like to see is like a culture where we frown upon it, because I think that's the only way that you can really like, you can kind of ostracize people and kind of kick them out of your community. Like you can use that kind of soft power to kind of control social and cultural issues. Like, I don't want anybody to fucking go to jail for aborting their baby. Also, but like more so than that, like using ostracism and things like that, that can be considered mean or whatever. But like, what I really think that we should do is, especially as Christians, is give people options, because like if people are going to have sex, that's just reality, right? So if a 13-year-old girl gets pregnant by her boyfriend, now she's scared, now she's fucking terrified, now she's like, how am I going to pay for food, how am I going to raise this baby? That's where I think the community should, the pro-lifers, say, okay, well, we want you to keep this baby because we don't want to see it die. We appreciate and we love like life. We don't want this child to be murdered, right? So we are going to help you by like, we'll, as a community, pay for the baby's diapers. We'll help you like find food, for the baby. We'll hire you at like part-time, or like find a safe place for you to live. Like if you really want to be pro-life and you want to save these children, I think that you have to put your money where your mouth is. And I think you have to also take care of these people. Because otherwise, like, you're just like, if you murder that baby, you're a bitch. And then you're like, well, I don't know how I'm going to be able to take care of it. And they're like, well, that's your fucking problem. You should have got pregnant, slut. That's how the pro-life community kind of comes off, and very judgmental. And like, you're not winning anybody over, and you're just kind of making the situation where this person feels like they need to get an abortion.
So, anyways, Nat, I just want to say it was a pleasure, having you on my show today. And anything else you would like to say before we're done?
Welsh Republic, thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I love getting invitations to different shows. It's a lot of fun. This was a fun conversation. Can I give some plugs?
Sure, go ahead. Where can people find you?
Okay. So we are the Reality Czars podcast, and you can find us on all your major platforms as far as audio goes. We're always hit or miss on YouTube. Like they'll kick us off, from time to time. We're just finally back from a strike. So I got to record our Halloween specials. So we just did 2 really cool Halloween specials. People should check out, but you can also find our work on, I'm retarded. What do you call it?
Rumble.
It's late.
To obviously
Rockfin. We put a lot of our stuff on Rockfin. We try to put things on Odyssey, but honestly, dude, I'm lazy, so I haven't been like keeping up with the Odyssey. You can find some of our older videos there. I'll try to be better. I'm sorry, guys. But yeah, check us out on Rockfin. Almost all of our content we put out for free. There's only a couple episodes that are premium content that are a little spicy. And so if you are a member of Rockfin, it's kind of like the Netflix of like truther videos. It's pretty fucking cool, dude. You can find all your favorite guys there. It's great. Rockfin's great. We also did a Sasquatch documentary not that long ago, and that is also on a Rockfin. So go watch our Sasquatch documentary.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for coming on my show, Nat. It was a pleasure having you, and I wish you and Tony the best of luck for your podcast. And I just want to say to everybody, thank you for joining the Welsh Republic podcast, episode 71. Have a nice day, everybody. And just to before I finish, This video isn't actually going to be on my main channel because the strike that I have on me, talking about strikes, that is not going to be removed until November the 6th. So this video will be uploaded onto my backup channel and onto my Rumble. So please make sure to like and subscribe this video. Please make sure to also follow me on Rumble. That's another place that I use. And also follow me on Float. That's another website I use too. So thank you, everybody, for joining the Welsh Podcast, episode 71. Have a nice day, everybody. God bless you all. Bye.